Today we're making punch, 2 punch recipes, perfect for a party, a get-together, or just a Saturday. We'll make some slight variations to the Kahiko Punch from Smuggler's Cove and the Hearthside Punch from the Tropical Standard Book. Now, both of these punches require you to make some syrups, or in the case of the Kahiko Punch, you'll need the Smuggler's Cove hibiscus liqueur, and the Hearthside Punch uses a lemon punch syrup and a black tea syrup. That lemon punch syrup, I did a whole video on oleos and punch syrups recently, so you can see how to make those. I'll have a link in this episode's description. This one you see right here is frozen. Don't tell anybody. For the black tea syrup, it's super easy. It's 250 grams of water and 3 grams of tea. You let that steep overnight and strain it, and then add 250 grams of turbinado sugar. All right, so at the top of the video here, I said that I was going to be adapting these recipes, and that's only slightly. I'm not following the exact brands of spirits called for in the Hearthside Punch or the Kahiko Punch, and the Kahiko Punch calls for an unaged Jamaican pot still rum, and I'll use some of that, but when it comes to large batches of punches like these that I've already made, I'm making these for a crowd, and I'd like to kill some of the half-empty bottles that I have just lying around. I'm not using the bad stuff, only the best for my guests, but maybe just getting rid of some of those bottles that I have lying around that could clear up space for more and new bottles. The recipes that I put in this episode's description will be for just a single serving punch, so an individual cocktail, but I'm making large batches here. I think there's over 15 drinks here and 30 here, and that's a lot. So however much you want to make, just multiply your ingredients by the number. If you want 10 cocktails, multiply everything by 10. So here's how to make the Kahiko Punch from Smuggler's Cove. Start with some Bittermans Elimakule Tiki Bitters, fresh lemon juice, passion honey syrup, which I didn't make the syrup. I'm just using equal parts here of a passion fruit puree and honey. Now I'm going to add some cinnamon syrup, and if the color looks off to you, it's because I just made this batch of cinnamon syrup. Now I'm going to add the Smuggler's Cove hibiscus liqueur, and there's a link to how to make that in this episode's description. And finally, I'm just going to add in a bunch of rums I have lying around, nothing too special, just stuff I'm trying to get rid of. I do want to have some of that Jamaican pot still component, so I am going to add a collection, a whole variety of my Jamaican overproofs here. To make the tropical standard Hearthside Punch, I'm going to start with some saline solution, some fresh lemon juice, my lemon punch syrup, our black tea syrup, some Curacao or orange liqueur, some Jamaican pot still rum. The recipe calls for Smith Cross, but I'm very stingy with my Smith Cross. And then I need a ton of cognac for my recipe, so I'm basically killing every bottle of cognac I have. Finally, we need to add some water. I'm not serving this for a while, so I'm adding a combination here of ice and water. So we followed recipes, and we followed recipes from, I think, 2 people who make drinks that I would trust as much, if not more, than anyone else. But anytime you're making a punch, and in this case where I'm improvising a little bit with some of the ingredients because I don't have enough to make huge volumes of everything here, you want to test it. And you want to sort of plan ahead for how your punch is going to dilute. Are you putting ice in here? Now, right now, these have ice in them because I wanted to add some water. So to chill it a little bit, I added ice. But I'm also going to tell my guests, because this is not just for me, that to fill up their glass with ice completely first. You don't want your punch to be too intense. You don't want it to be too strong. It's something people should be sipping on, and I like them in smaller glasses. You don't know unless you know your audience super well. You don't know how everyone's going to react to drinking cocktails. So you don't want it to be too strong. So you want to either plan for that by adding some dilution, which we did add dilution here, and then we're going to add more dilution by adding ice. And then this one actually doesn't have much dilution, the ice that I put in there, but taste it. Is it too sweet? Is it too strong? Do you need to add more rum? Do you need to add more passion fruit? Eventually, you're going to build that to your own preference. But let's try these. I'm going to start with the Hearthside Punch. I've never had this one. It's my first time, and I've been wanting to make it now since I first got that book. Cheers. I am relieved because this is 110 ounces, and I've never had it. I was a little worried there. I went through a couple bottles of Cognac, at least a bottle of rum, and my concern was that I wouldn't love it. I love it. It feels like to me right now, it needs a little more ice and dilution. It's like a touch syrupy, but the main thing that like the unusual, out of the ordinary flavor is that tea. So you get a lot of the tea flavor, but it's not astringent. There's not too many tannins, but that plays off of those old historic punch recipes with tea. And then you do get the Cognac, which it's just like a nice, well-rounded sweetness in the spirit, and that's also not being overpowered, or the rum is not overpowering it. And I think when you're making a punch for a big crowd, you don't want to use just like all Smith Cross because people don't love that. But that pot still rum is in there, and you can get it in the background, and it is like upping the flavor and intensity. It's a 10 out of 10 punch, and if you haven't tried this punch before, I would suggest it if you're looking at whether it's New Year's or birthday party, Super Bowl, whatever it is. This is a delicious punch. And now we're going to try the Kahiko Punch. I've made this many times. I have family that requests this, but when I was double checking the recipe to make this, I realized I don't think I've ever made it the correct way. I think every time I made it before, I just used passion fruit syrup, but the official recipe calls for passion fruit puree as well as honey as the sweetener there. So I'm expecting it to be a little bit different. It is on the thicker side because we're using honey as well as a passion fruit puree. So when I've made this before, I've always added a lot of ice and then ice to the guest I serve it to. So it's a little bit more diluted, but let's try it. Kahiko Punch. Cheers. It's fantastic. It's always been fantastic. I don't think I can recognize as much the fact that I use the honey with the passion fruit compared to the passion fruit and sugar, but there's a super intense tropical flavor with the hibiscus liqueur, with the passion fruit, and that makes this stand up well to a large format. But I find this to be like one of the most delicious sort of big, bright, bold tropical drinks, and that's why I chose this one to be, working in tandem in sort of opposite sides of the punch spectrum, but still both being tropical in nature, but the big tropical fruit flavors, and then the more subdued sort of old school punch. Both of these 10 out of 10 punches. My two favorite punches now. This one has been my favorite a long time. Now this is one of my new favorites. So if you have not had these and you need a punch, follow these recipes. So there we go. 2 punch recipes. I'm so happy right now because I literally have like 30 people coming over in minutes, and I somehow got this to work in time. I know that a crowd is going to love this. You don't have to be into tropical or tiki or rum. Everyone's going to love these. The people that I've served this to that have had it, they're not into this stuff. And then this is like a classic, and that's why I made so much more of this. So both great punch recipes, and I encourage you, maybe don't do as I did and actually try these as single serve cocktails first, and then work them into 110 ounce 30 serving punch bowls. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like below. Consider subscribing to this channel. If you want to support this channel more, go check out my Patreon page, and otherwise, see you on the next one.